Welcome, everyone, to It's a Rap with Rap. I am your host, Ron Rappaport. This podcast features people who have overcome life's struggles and adversities, people who can inspire, motivate, and educate us on an assortment of topics. My guest today is Kevn Roth. Kevn is a Renaissance man, an internationally known singer, songwriter, pianist, artist, and mountain dulcimer player. His music spans the world with contributions to traditional, original, contemporary, and jazz influences. His career has spanned over 3 decades. Kevn has won over a dozen awards, including the American Library Association Notable Recordings. Kevn's voice has been heard by millions, singing the theme song to the hit PBS TV show Shining Time Station. Kevn has performed twice at the White House and has made many radio and television appearances throughout the world. In 2016, Kevn received a diagnosis of stage 3 melanoma and given a few years to live by his doctors. He changed the way he thought, ate, and created a life that was purpose-driven and fun. Kevn now coaches professionals such as clergy, doctors, psychologists, and others how to discover, create, and live their own purpose-driven life with practical advice that works. Welcome, Kevn, to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on your show.
Well, we're so glad to have you, Kevn. Let's start at the beginning. Tell us about your early years growing up and your musical ability.
Well, I was born in Philadelphia, and I showed musical talent on the piano, playing by ear at a very early age. I fell in love with the music of Peter, Paul, and Mary around the age of 8.
Love them, love them.
Yeah, precisely, actually, the look and the sound of Mary.
Yeah.
And when I was 13, by fate, I came across an instrument called the mountain dulcimer, fell in love with it, knew that it was going to be my magic carpet ride. And at 15, 16, I got my first record deal with Folkway Records, which are now part of the Smithsonian.
Wow. Now, for those not familiar with the dulcimer, tell us about the instrument. And again, tell us why you were attracted to it and your love for it.
So the mountain dulcimer, there are 2 types of dulcimers. One's a hammer dulcimer, played with hammers, little wooden hammers. They're in the shape of a trapezoid. And it's the forerunner of the piano. If you think of the piano with the little hammers that hit the strings. I play the mountain dulcimer, which is a traditional American folk instrument that's a relative of fretted zithers, and it's very pretty. It's very sounds between a harp and a guitar, and usually played traditionally in the way that you would hear people from the Appalachian Mountains play it. I am known as a contemporary innovator of the instrument, and you can hear everyone from me to Joni Mitchell to the Rolling Stones playing the dulcimer. It's lovely.
Yeah. Now, your career spans 3 decades. Can you give us an overview, please, of some of your favorite musical accomplishments and some of your favorite people that you worked with?
Well, you know, I always wanted to be rich and famous because I thought it would make me happy. So that involved, for a musician, getting a major record deal, getting a publishing deal, getting a TV show, having concerts, making over $1 million. So I did all that. It didn't bring me happiness, but I did accomplish it. I think one of the highlights of my career is when I got to solo while at a Peter, Paul, and Mary concert with Mary sitting at my feet. Listening. I have a picture of it that someone actually took, and that was the highlight. Since I grew up on Peter, Paul, and Mary, they'd become very close friends of mine, and that was a big musical accomplishment. Just making it in the music business is a major musical accomplishment, especially with a dulcimer.
Yeah, definitely. But you said it, all that fame, fortune, it didn't bring you happiness, though. So.
No, it didn't. It brought me moments of happiness. Mm-hmm. But as I'm just finishing up the details on a book, my first book called Between the Notes, a practical way of finding your inner groove in life so you can dance to what makes your heart sing.
Right.
You want your heart to sing, and you want to dance to something that you're happy to in life, meaning your purpose. but these things are very fleeting, like fame. So I thought that money and love and success would bring me happiness in the true sense, and it didn't. I learned what did after my diagnosis with melanoma, but I'm proud that I accomplished what I accomplished. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
lot.
sure.
I've had a lot of luck, and I've made a lot of fans, and that ain't all that bad.
Right. No, absolutely. Now, this podcast features people overcoming life's adversities and challenges. So along comes 2016, and you receive a stage 3 melanoma diagnosis. Now, I know a little bit about that because I'm on my second diagnosis of male breast cancer, so I can relate to what you were going through. But how did you react to it, and how did it change your life?
Strangely enough, I've had what they call out-of-body experiences since I was a young kid. How you describe something like that, the way I best describe it is I kind of feel like I'm on parallel universes at the same time. And I see sort of a vision, almost like a preview of a movie. And I had seen this a year before I actually was diagnosed. It came to me that I would have a major illness. I would be okay, but it would be a rough time. So I moved from Florida to Kansas during a very stressful time in my life. And as you know, and many of your listeners know, that the two of the leading causes of cancer are stress and inflammation.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
So I was a good 30 pounds overweight at the time because I was an emotional eater, and I was stressed out to the max. My dad had died recently. My 9-year relationship ended, and a small business I started almost bankrupted me. So I left Florida and I went to Kansas, and I just on a routine dermatology appointment, this guy said, I want to take a scraping of this little thing on your nose. And within a month, really within 2 months, actually, because it was misdiagnosed, I got a call from an oncologist that said, actually not an oncologist, he was an ENT doctor, because they'd done a biopsy and they removed a lymph node. And he said, you need to see an oncologist immediately. So the first thing that came to me was, there's the OBE coming true. And the second thing was fear.
Yeah.
Because as you know, cancer is something that you feel that has control of you that you don't have control of, which isn't necessarily true.
Right.
But I was one of those guys that, was healthy. Cancer would never happen to me. I didn't smoke and all this kind of stuff. So it freaked me out, but it also provided me with what I call a spiritual kick in the ass. Because when they diagnosed it as stage 3, they did these scans to see where else in my body it had gone, and it hadn't spread anywhere. But they said that there was a 70% chance that it would come back within a year and I'd be dead within 2 to 3. So I was basically handed a death sentence, because for my kind of melanoma, there's no cure. You can't do chemo or radiation, okay? So it forced me to say, if I only have a few years left, which I didn't believe, because I'd had many OB experiences and they were never wrong. So I trusted my gut on that, but I thought, you're going to have to change the way you think and the way you eat and the way you live. So you need to know, A, what matters, B, why it matters to you, and C, what are you going to do about it, and put it into action.
Right. Absolutely. What was the spark that caused you to get into to life coaching, in that life coaching field? What was the spark that did that?
Well, a friend had asked me, what was I going to do? And I said, I don't know. I'm going to probably make another album. And he said, why don't you teach people what you did to survive your life, basically?
Yeah.
How you went from a near-death sentence to moving to San Diego, hardly being able to afford it, how you created this new story in your head and you walked into it and worked it and it made it happen.
So 2016, you get the diagnosis, and after 2016, when did you go and get into the life coaching?
Well, the diagnosis came in 2015. I moved to San Diego in 2016. So it was late around 2017, 18, I began to think about it.
Okay.
Because when I Googled what a life coach was, I didn't like it. I didn't, it's like, no, I'm not a life coach. And it took me a while to get an idea for it. But what really sold me on it is I said, well, if I do life coach, I can't do music. And he said, no. He said, you need to do your dulcimer music because the way you play is like dulcimer meditation. And then the light bulb went off and I thought, oh. So I went on Facebook to all the dulcimer groups that I knew, and they all know me, because I'm known in the dulcimer world. And I said, hey, if you're feeling stressed or stuck and you want to use the dulcimer to chill out and feel, balanced, let me know. So this was just at the beginning of COVID.
Okay.
So everybody was stressed out. So I got one or two people to sign up, but I didn't know if I was any good at being a coach. So the test was, if I taught them what I knew and what I still do daily, would it work for them? Because they didn't come to me with cancer issues. The first couple clients came to me with feeling stuck and also anger issues. And their lives changed very quickly. And I thought, wow, I really love this. I really love this. And I am incredibly blessed that this is a talent I had no idea I had.
Right. You're changing lives.
It's amazing, cancer will knock your ego right flat. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
A performer, we like our standing ovations, but it's a whole different experience when a client that you've just finished working with at the end of that time period has tears in her eyes and she's thanking you for really switching her around. It's an amazing thing,
Yeah. You can't put a money value on something like that. It's just, it makes you feel so great. I mean, it's amazing. You talk about mindful awareness. Tell us what does that mean?
Mindful awareness is a term that I came up with for myself, along with acronyms for faith and fear, which I'll tell you about. But mindful awareness is being aware of how you are feeling. So if your phone rings and it's your credit card company, and you are aware that your blood pressure is going up and you don't want to talk to these people, don't answer the phone. Don't step in it. That's what I call it. It's shit. You can call them back. They'll be after you. But when you do that, you take control and you take your power back. And that's what's important. That's what you learn. When you're mindful, you say, I'm feeling this way about something. Mindful awareness with cancer, I saw 4 oncologists. 3, I would take their license away immediately. All the prognosis was the same, but they wanted to do things to me, like wanted to remove my lymph nodes. I said, why, if there's no signs of cancer? And one of them said, well, it's in there microscopically and it's protocol. I said, my name is in protocol, and unless you can show me cancer, you're not taking lymph nodes. What are you, nuts? But this is what she did. I'm sure she's a fine doctor, but for me, man, So my mindful awareness is trusting my gut. And my gut is never wrong. And my gut said, no, don't do that. You get in with the doctor who is not taking new patients. There was a doctor in Kansas I just wanted to be with. It was just from his picture, I said, this is my guy. And he was the only doctor that said, do nothing and let's wait and see. So that's what mindful awareness is being aware of how you feel and how you react to things, so that you have more control over your life.
Okay, and I have to agree with you on the gut feeling. That definitely is true. I've had that, and I'm sure everybody out there has had the same experience. You have to go with your gut.
When you have something like cancer or any major event happen into your life, you are thrown into fear.
Yeah,
And you're going to an expert doctor or somebody that says, okay, you're going to do this, this, and this, and that will be the best thing. And if you're really freaked out, you go with it because, you don't know what to do. I have a double A personality. I don't like to be told what to do by anybody. That's how I've made it in the music business, one of the toughest business in the world. So I have no fear in looking at an oncologist and saying, you're out of your mind. They don't like to hear that. Oh, they don't like to hear that, because cancer is a big business. It's a big business. Not that these guys aren't out to help you, because they are.
right.
But to tell somebody what to do with their body within a 7-minute thing because they got to get through the thing for the billing process, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree.
My opinion.
Is life real or just an illusion? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, you want to open up that can of worms? Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so life is really an illusion. So how do you know that? Well, first of all, if you look at the ancient scriptures, they will tell you that. If you follow Buddha, he'll tell you that. If you follow Jesus, be in this world but not of this world, all of these things, no matter who you go to, especially the Hindus, they'll tell you that life is an illusion. So let's say that's woo-woo. Now let's look at science. Science says that the universe is expanding, but into what? Everyone says, well, it's your mind that's causing you problems, it's your ego. So get the greatest brain surgeon in the world, and he can dissect a brain, and we'll never find something called a mind. You can't hold a mind. There's nothing physical called a mind. So what is it? It's consciousness. What's that? Undefined. It's just not definable. We are supposedly on a planet that's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour in the middle of nothing, infinity. That's a fact, right?
Right.
But what we get caught up in, which causes us illness, is the credit card bill, the this, the that. That's what causes the insanity which affects our system. So yes, life is sort of an illusion, but we do still have this experience of a dream life. It's like going to a movie, right? You've got the screen, and then let's say a movie like the Titanic comes on, and you get all caught up in the film, right? You feel the boat going down, you feel the chilly water, you start to cry when the lovers are leaving each other and drowning. You're caught up in the drama. The reality is it's just a film. When it's over, there's nothing but a blank screen. So to me, God or consciousness or the substratum is the screen, and what we're in is the movie. So what I teach my clients is how to live with one foot in both worlds. So if you know how to live the dream where you say, you know what, I'm not getting stressed out. I'm not going to worry about this. I'm not going to do this stuff because it doesn't work, because you've learned about mindful awareness. The chances of you keeping illness and unhappiness at bay is much larger. Plus, it's fascinating. I mean, quantum physics. So science now is agreeing with spirituality. They've got conferences around the world that are saying this is what it is. But we, as a society, get caught up on the shenanigans of what's going on the planet, and things are much bigger. If you watch any near-death experience on YouTube, and there are hundreds of thousands of people that have had these, doctors have had these, psychiatrists have had these. I mean, not just like nutty people. They've had near-death experience. They will tell you that when they've temporarily died, they have gone to this thing called home. They feel an absolute loving presence. They feel just wonderful, besides any kind of description. And then they come back and they have no fear of death. My theory is that when you're born with that awareness of that connection, that longing. And we take that longing through life, but we don't realize it because we develop egos. So we want that love, we want that acceptance, we want that bliss. So we buy things. We buy homes, we buy cars, we buy fame, we buy this. And all of that is to numb out or to feel temporarily happy in our lives, because what we don't realize is that we want that longing. But here's the deal. It hasn't gone anywhere. You got it. It's already there. It's already in you. And you just need to recognize it. It's fascinating. It really is fascinating.
Yeah. That's a great way of putting it. Kevin, what types of people seek your coaching? What kind of people come to you?
I get all kinds of people. I have doctors, I've had clergy, I've had some psychologists, professional, I've had housewives. When they contact me, they've either seen me or heard me on a podcast or a video somewhere, or word of mouth. And there's a free kind of session, like a 30-minute get to know each other. And I'm very selective who I work with, because they're not just clients to me, they become family.
Yeah.
And I want to be sure that the energy is right. So not everyone who interviews with me some people don't think I'm their coach, and some people I think I don't want to be their coach.
Right.
So, but it's all over the place. What I've noticed is whoever is meant to become a client becomes a client.
Yeah. This might be redundant, but how did you develop your philosophy about life and life coaching other people?
A large part because of the cancer. Because when you're given a death sentence, you have nothing left to lose.
Right.
So instead of putting up with stress and feeling stuck and unhappy and crazy, why? So I just said, I'm going to go to California and live like a bohemian. I'm a painter. It's my painting behind me, and a musician. And I'm just going to, do my thing. And if I die, I die. And if I live, I live. I didn't die. The cancer never came back. And I didn't want to give up what I had because it was so far superior and more fun than the life I was living. The thing about coaching for me is that it is who I am. I don't teach something that I haven't experienced. So when I talk to clients, I'm reaffirming not just for them, but for myself, what has worked. And so that's the joy of it. That's the fun of it.
Now, just curious, your cancer that you had, the melanoma, how was it treated? I
had Mohs surgery.
Okay.
They thought that the little spot on my nose was in situ, and it was misdiagnosed. So
okay.
That's the first lesson, double, triple check, those things.
Right.
Then a couple months later, I found a lump under my chin when I was shaving.
Okay.
So, but you see, I knew all along from my out-of-body experiences that I would get through all of this, and that I would probably end up in California. I knew I'd end up as a teacher somehow or another. This is all in my book in more detail, but I just didn't think I was going to die, and a lot of my attitude, I think, helped heal me. And my attitude was, no, I'm changing channels.
Yeah.
I don't need to do this. I know a couple of people that have done it. I knew a woman that was told she had 2 months to live, stage 4 melanoma, and she went and meditated and changed what she ate. And she's alive today, 21 years later. Prudence Sinclair, she helps people who have cancer. She has a program for that. And I know another guy who had some other kind of cancer, and he just said, no, I'm not going to die.
Mindset.
It's mindset has a lot to do with it, but
Yeah.
in the end, everyone has their time. And my feeling is that when I leave the planet, so to speak, I'm not going anywhere anyway, because I'm I'm the same thing that created me in a sense. Where can I go?
Yeah. Now, getting back to happiness, what does true happiness mean and why?
Well, for me, true happiness is understanding what your passion is and living it. That's why I subtitled the book Practical Ways, okay, things that work to find your inner groove, which is what you really love to do, who you are in life, and how to dance so that your heart sings, so that love what you do what you love. Okay. And people
Yeah.
feel stuck. They say, yeah, but I have a house, I've got a mortgage, I've got that. Well, do you need a 4-bedroom house? Do you need a big car like that? I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm a minimalist. I'm having a blast. So that's number one. Number two, you have to understand that fear is false evidence appearing real. FEAR, false evidence appearing real.
Okay.
Faith, my acronym for faith, is finding, or actually rather following an intuition that helps. Trust your gut. If you ask inside, if you can turn your mind down enough to listen to your inner voice, you'll be told what to do. That's the correct thing.
Now, for those who out there who feel stuck and want to change their life situation, how do you recommend they go about doing it?
Well, the first thing I ask a client is, what don't you want?
Okay.
And then we get into what do they want? And then we understand, why do you want that? Because if you want to lose weight, that's not in the form of a pill. You're going to have to understand not what you're eating only. You're going to need to understand what's eating you. And that's a commitment. So you got to really have a very strong why. And you also need a lot of empathy. Cancer taught me to really love myself. I became my own best friend. I was so caught up in my career and the dollar signs in my bank account. I had a lot of zeros at one point, but I had a big zero in my heart. So kindness, patience, and being empathetic with yourself is a big thing for changing your game. I also believe that there's a time where self-help books are helpful, therapy is helpful, and coaches are helpful. But you have to be ready to change. You've got to either hit a bottom or say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
I'm done with this stinking thinking. And seek somebody either professionally that can help you go through it, or which would be like maybe a therapist if you need one, or a life coach. You want to pick someone that you resonate with, who gets you.
Right. You can't do it alone.
It's tough to do it alone. There's I don't recommend it. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I had a friend who once said that he was going to write a self-help book on how to stop buying self-help books because I had so many of them. It's a good intention, you try, but then you out, because you don't. What a coach does is they're your champion. They hold you accountable. So when you say you're not going to argue with your spouse and you do, the next week you can talk to your coach about it, and the coach will know how to make you think about why that happened so that you get it, so that it doesn't really happen as much or as often or at all again. A self-help book is just kind of a blueprint. It's like,
Yeah.
in my book, I say, there's like in The Wizard of Oz, for instance, I write about this in one of my chapters. At the end, when Dorothy was ready to go home, Glenda the Good Witch says to Dorothy, you've had the power all along. Well, she knew she had the brains and the heart and the courage, right? The Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion and Scarecrow. but she understood it, but she didn't know it until the end. Then she got it. So there's a difference between understanding it in a book and knowing it. When you
Right.
know something, you move on it. Self-help books are pointers and a guide. A coach like myself moves you forward in the right direction.
Kevin, you've talked about silence being important.
Mhm.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, silence is huge. If we have this thing which I call the monkey mind, and it's the rattling of your brain. So I have a client when she first started to work with me who worried about the same things all week long. What was going to go on the weekend? That was her big thing. She had to get a birthday party for her kids. She needed to do that. Da, 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 da. And I said, if you actually sat down and just wrote a small list, you'd get it all done in about 2 hours, and you could have the whole rest of the week free. But in order to get that list, you need to sit down, breathe, I teach an exercise. I call it a stress buster. It takes you like 3 minutes. In fact, it's free on my website, KevnRoth.org. You can go there and learn it. And it just quiets your mind long enough so that you can hear your inner voice that will guide you. And that's what it's really all about.
Okay. Now you talk about riding the surfboard of life.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stay in balance with life's waves?
Well, how I do it is balance is emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. So when one part is out of balance, like emotions, there's something you can do physically. So for instance, today I was very tired earlier in the day, and I knew it wasn't from a lack of sleep. I knew it was probably something going on in my brain. So I went out for a hike, and the hike really cleared that part of me. It helped me bring into balance the things that are out of balance. So there are different things that you can do. Emotionally, if you're upset, you can think about it mentally, okay? You can read something spiritual. You can exercise. There's lots of different things that you can do to bring things into balance, because when life is out of balance, you're out of balance. And
Right.
again, balance is emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. So one of the things I do as a coach is I teach people, which is part of being in this world, how to stay in balance.
Okay.
Mindful awareness will tell you I'm out of balance. A lot of people don't even know they're out of balance.
Yeah.
They're on their cell phones and computers all day long. They don't even know that they're tired.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Now you have used the term new rich. What does that mean?
Well, what is wealth? So, all the money in the world didn't buy Steve Jobs out of cancer, right? So what is wealth? To me, wealth is your health. If you got your health, you got your first couple million. If you are happy, if you know how to enjoy your life, how to not be stressed out, how to stay in balance, that's wealth. That's a lot. There's a story I write about in the book where I was watching one day these two Mexican immigrant workers here in San Diego. They were at a taco stand, and they were eating tacos and they were drinking beer and they were laughing like they had just won the lottery. And they didn't look like they had a lot of money. And on the other side of the taco stand was a guy in a business suit, and he was on the phone, and he was arguing with somebody about money, but he had the sauce, the Tabasco sauce, running down the side of his arm. And I thought, it looks like blood, and I was thinking, here's a guy who's got to have, God knows how much more money than these immigrant workers. And he's stressed and, he's not happy. So who's wealthier in that moment?
Sure.
It's not that being broke doesn't make you happy, but you need to know what true wealth is. And that is living your life on purpose. I call it, that's why I call the book Between the Notes. You know, between the notes means it's not just the music, but it's the space between the notes that makes it music, which is the inner awareness, the mindful awareness.
Can you kind of tell us some of the things you provide to your clients?
Well, we start off with a cocktail. No, I'm kidding.
Sign me up.
I think the biggest thing I provide my clients is I have an innate ability to do deep listening. So I love Zoom meetings because I not just hear people, but I can look kind of into them and see what's really going on.
Yeah.
I provide, I guess, my clients honesty. But I think the biggest thing I supply them is truth and experience. Because, you know, I didn't take a course in how to be a life coach, although they have them. I went to the school of hard knocks. I survived cancer, I believe, and I changed my life drastically by doing what I do. And that's what I teach. So that's a big thing to provide someone, I think.
Very authentic.
Get it, yeah.
Very authentic, yeah. What excites you about your coaching work? And can you briefly tell us a few success stories arising from it?
Well, I love what I do. So that's exciting. I'm always curious who ends up as a new client because I think that we're meant to be together. I also think about my clients throughout the week. So it's not like if you're booked with me Thursday from 10 to 11, I don't think about you till 10 minutes before and review my notes. You're with me, which is why I only work with, 6 or 8 clients at a time. Well, I think one of the wonderful, I have a lot of success stories, thankfully, because I don't let them go until they've accomplished what they've come to me for. I think one of my favorite, I'll tell you two. One of my favorites was a woman. You know, I have a lot of confidentiality, so I don't talk a lot in detail about people. But this particular woman had lost her husband, and she had a bunch of guilt around it for a long time. And we worked through that, and I was able to have her do certain things that resolved that feeling of guilt. So after so many years, she was, in a sense, let out of her own prison. And at the end of our session, our last session together, you know, she was in tears of joy, of thankfulness. So that's one of the things I really like. And I think another one is that I had a doctor come to me, and she was getting ready to have major surgery.
Yeah.
And I helped her through that. I also created music, which sometimes I do for people on the dulcimer. And not only, thankfully, she made it through quite an ordeal, but now she's referring clients, patients of hers, to me. So that's a happy ending.
That's a happy ending, definitely.
So we've become good friends, and those are two of them. I mean, I guess I have a bunch of them, but that's two.
Okay. Kevin, any new things in the works? Music, writing? What's coming up? I know you got something in the works.
Yeah. Well, this fall, I'm excited because my book is going to come out, and at the end of each chapter is a song. They're lyrics. So when you buy the book, you can go and download the song. So it's like an album and a book. It's called Between the Notes. It'll be available on Amazon and all these Kindles and all these other things. And I love the book because it's about a little bit about my career, but it's mostly about teaching people what I do as a coach, which are, like I said earlier, the practical ways of finding your inner groove, who you are authentically. Right. Who do you want to be? And dance to what makes your heart sing. most of my clients, many of them have been women. They've raised families, they've had careers, and they've forgotten who they were along the way, and they're empty, and they want to know, how do I get myself back? So when you're living a purpose-driven life, you're living a full life, you're creating a life you love. The thing is, we have a choice. And most people don't realize it because they say, I've got bills, I've got stress, there's the war, there's the politics, there's all that kind of stuff. You can get rid of that crap in a minute. Boom. Don't watch the news.
Yeah.
Don't live in that expensive mortgage. You don't need to. One of the things about money, people come to me with money issues, that if you know how to make it and work it for you instead of against you, there's a whole freedom there. I don't hardly have any credit card debt at all. At one time I was $80,000 in debt. I don't buy a lot of stuff because I don't need a lot of stuff. I bought a lot of stuff to fill in that emptiness, that hole in the soul, until I realized that it was this spiritual longing that I wanted, and then understood how to find it and live with it, because I can't really live without it, that I didn't need anything, or I needed very little. I'm a pretty content guy, riding the surfboard, which is what I talk about in the book. And I think you mentioned it, is learning to ride the waves in life. We have stuff come at us. There's no way around it,
Yeah.
How you handle it is a whole nother thing. You can handle it smart, or you can handle it, tough. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy?
Right.
That's where mindful awareness comes in. And the trick is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And when you replace what doesn't work in your life with what does, you don't ever go back to what doesn't work. Why would you?
Yeah.
Hey, this works better. This feels, like if you find a doctor, if you interviewed a couple doctors and one doctor says, you know what, I'm going to put you on this medication, but I'm going to give you this thing with it so that you feel fairly normal. You're not nauseous. And it works. You're not going to go back to the old protocol you had, which made you sick to your stomach and ill. Why would you?
Right.
So we have that choice, and those right decisions are out there. If we can eliminate fear, bring on faith, and trust our gut. And that's the joy of what I teach. At least I try to teach it.
Kevin, how can people contact you and learn about all that you offer? How can they get a hold of you?
Just if you go to my website, kevnroth.org, you can send me an email, or there's a form that you can fill out about if you want coaching, what you want to get out of it. And there's a short questionnaire, or you can give me your contact information. And if I read through it and I think that we're a match, I send you an email, and we set up a Zoom free consultation. And if I'm not the right guy for you, I know friends that are good coaches, and I can, send you there. So that's the way to do it. That's the best way is kevnroth.org.
Okay. For those out there, kevnroth.org, and we'll put that in the podcast notes. Kevin, for those out there struggling, any last words of wisdom for them?
Yeah, you don't have to. If you have, if you're really depressed, there's free help. There are hotlines. If you have an alcohol or an addiction problem, they've got 12-step programs. They're wonderful. They're wonderful. I mean, I don't have a drinking problem, but I know that they're wonderful. If you can afford coaches, they're there. There are therapists and doctors through insurance program. You don't have to suffer. You don't need to. Help is often free and often available. And you just take the step and reach out. You got to have hope, because without it, what good is it?
Right.
The beginning of my book, I talk about that most people, they have this abyss they fall into, a dark night of the soul, where they think they're never going to come out of it. but they do. And you can crawl out of it smart, or you can linger in the darkness. It's up to you. So that's my advice: is you don't need to suffer. And people are wonderful. I had no idea how kind people were until I had cancer. I was an arrogant son of a bitch. I mean, I'll admit it. I had an ego on a scale of 1 to 10, about a 20. I still got a little bit of one. I couldn't believe that these nurses cared more about me than I cared. I couldn't. I thought, why are they taking so much time with me? Why are they explaining this to me? I called one nurse once, and I was going to sign up for some sort of treatment this guy wanted me to have, which was lethal. And I was scheduling with her, and I said, I don't feel good about this. And she said, then don't do it. If you don't feel good about it, Kevin, don't do it. I didn't know her from Adam. And I hung up the phone, and I thought, how can this person have more empathy for me than I have for myself? And that's when I found out that I could have a lot of empathy for myself, and I could be kind to myself. I call it, there was Kevin, the arrogant Kevin, and then there's Kevin from heaven, the guy who says, don't worry, buddy, we'll get through this.
Yeah.
And I do. That's why I love to coach people.
Well, I always say, people say, well, why me? And I said, don't ask why me. Why did this happen to me? Ask, why did this happen for me?
Yeah.
Look at it that way. I mean, I'm like you. I have the cancer too. And it's just amazing how many people come out of the woodwork, people you don't even know that well, that empathize with you, want to help you. Like you said, the nurses, that type of thing. It's just amazing.
Yeah. I'll tell you something else that I just learned this week. A cousin of mine said to me, well, you have cancer. And I said, no, I don't have cancer. The cancer hasn't come back in 5-6 years. I don't have cancer. Yeah, but you had it. Well, that's had.
Right.
If you're in remission for one day, you don't have cancer.
Right.
Don't get into this mindset. I did it. I'm sick. Poor Kevin. Nothing's in my control. I just said, I don't live if I only have 2 years left to live, I'm going to California, Southern California, watching surfers, smoking I don't smoke weed really, but smoke some weed and have a good time. I'm not going to do this crap. I used to look up melanoma stuff on the internet, and it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Look at these people. But then I thought, but that's not you. I didn't feel sick a day in my life. I didn't even know I had it until a dermatologist told me. And then when I had that MRI and the CAT scan done, and the doctor threw the scans up there, and she said, well, there's no signs that it spread, so we're going to take out your lymph nodes. That's when I went, huh? What? Why?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't as lucky as you, because the second time around, they were in my lymph nodes. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, I had to get them out. But if you look at my arm, lymphedema.
But you're recovering, right?
I'm recovering. I went through the chemo. I've got the radiation to go through.
Okay.
They the first time they didn't do it. They didn't think I needed it. I had a very low, the tumor had a very low score. So the recurrence rate was very low. But, it happens. It came back. And this time they're being, they're going to be, make sure that they get everything.
But you've learned a lot along the way, right?
Learned a lot, met a lot of great people I wouldn't even be doing this podcast if it wasn't for cancer, to be honest with you. I started out, actually, I do a lot of advocacy work for the male breast cancer. We just rebranded happens.org for people out there. And I said to the people in charge, hey, let's get on podcasts where guys never heard of male breast cancer, because it's out there. And then one day somebody said, why don't you start a podcast of your own? And I said, come on, I don't know anything about podcasting. Anyway, I thought about it, and I said, you know what, just like you said, the mindset. Well, why don't we go for it? I bought a microphone. I bought a headset, and here I am.
And you're good at it, yeah.
60 episodes later. I mean,
Great.
I didn't have any training in it. I just get on there and do it. And
it's attitude. I mean, I honestly, I don't think melanoma will ever come back, but something's going to get me. At some point in my life, something's going to get me. And I can only live each day the best I can and the happiest I can.
Yeah.
And,
one day at a time.
Doing my work that's fulfilling adds a lot to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Kevin, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast. The work you are doing is very much needed. And it's great to meet somebody like you that is so authentic and honest. And I wish you nothing but good fortune going forward with your coaching work and your musical endeavors. For people out there, comments and suggestions, you can email me at itsarapwithrap@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page and group, and the group's growing very nicely. I think we're over 1,200. It's a Rap with Rap. We're on Instagram. That's growing very rapidly. It's a Rap with Rap podcast, and we're on YouTube. All the episodes are on YouTube. It's a Rap with Rap, the podcast uncut. So I want to thank everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there. And for now, it's a wrap.
Thanks.